Part 1. First thought, the preciousness of a human birth. This human existence, with all its freedoms and endowments, is extremely difficult to attain. It enables one to accomplish the meaning of one's being. Having attained such a precious existence, if one does not accomplish benefit at this time, how could one achieve this perfect treasure in the future? Each human life is completely endowed with the potential for absolute enlightenment. Each of our lives could be an enormous blessing to ourselves and others. At the very least, each of us could achieve a harmonious and peaceful life and bring a seed of happiness into others' lives. When we talk about benefiting others, we must begin by recognizing our inherent Buddha nature, which could simply be called human nature, as they both refer to the fundamental ground of our being. This is a ground of goodness that is not contaminated with ignorance. Completely understanding this ground of genuine goodness would give us irreversible confidence in it. Irreversible confidence. Irreversible confidence comes from recognizing and being sure of the presence of our fundamental ground. With growing confidence, we are no longer distracted by laziness, disappointments, sadness, enthusiasm, and so on. We no longer have to succumb to ignorance, or aggression, attachment, selfishness, or habitual tendencies such as irritation, jealousy, or aggravation. Recognizing our core essence of enlightenment, we appreciate the preciousness of our existence. When we underestimate our human existence, tendencies such as laziness arise. With laziness, we remain as we were, distracted and stuck in habitual patterns. We could say that any tendency to distraction impedes the arising of Buddha nature again, due to not appreciating the preciousness of each moment. To conquer these distractions, contemplate the preciousness of human existence. Appreciating one's life generates a courageous heart and a courageous mind. Knowing that we could become completely free and lead others to freedom from endless and intolerable suffering, we can live with a sense of urgency and complete awareness, which brings confidence and joy and even greater appreciation of our life and potential. Then we can encounter moments of depression or disappointment without succumbing to hopes and fears based on emotions, concepts, or habitual tendencies. And we can conquer discursive thoughts of ordinariness, weakness, or inadequacy, recognizing them as mere tricks of the mind. Of course, mind will put up a fierce fight when it comes to ignorance and habitual patterns. In its struggle to preserve its identity and territory, it will come up with all sorts of non-appreciation of our fundamental true nature and highlight all our negative characteristics and tendencies. One way that ignorance gains a victory over our wisdom mind is by highlighting our negative tendencies through self-criticism. With all our study and practice, we may still find it difficult to encourage ourselves on the path. Instead, we criticize ourselves and feel inadequate or disappointed in our lack of awareness, our gender bias, or our inability to keep vows and precepts. When we criticize ourselves, ignorance demonstrates its tendencies. We may assume that by being self-critical, we're actually doing something good. Of course, it is important to recognize faults and overcome negative tendencies, but we often sink into the ignorance of criticizing ourselves without seeing our positive qualities. If we look carefully, we will see there are far more positive qualities than negative tendencies. Because of our inherent Buddha nature, our positive qualities, the very ground from which everything arises, are stronger and more numerous than our negativities. But because of habitual mind, we focus on the bleakness of our ignorance and negative qualities. We don't see ourselves as genuinely qualified and worthy vessels for the teachings. Eventually, this negativity becomes so strong that it completely covers up anything bright, luminous, and genuinely good arising from our inherently pure nature. The antidote to this pessimism and self-criticism is to understand the preciousness of human existence. It's essential to strengthen the mind in this way. Contemplation. In meditation, watch for signs of blaming yourself for not being a better practitioner, for allowing the mind to slip into unawareness, and so on. Watch out for the habit of highlighting negative tendencies or inabilities. This will prevent you from generating the courage necessary to put your body, speech, and mind fully on the path of practice. The 18 qualities of a precious human existence. A precious human life is endowed with 18 qualities. So that we may better understand them, they are divided into 8 freedoms and 10 endowments. The term for qualities is loosely translated from the Tibetan dalwa jorwa, dalba byorba. Dalwa usually signifies freedom, and jorwa literally riches, wealth, or endowment. Here refers to the intrinsic richness or essence of mind. The great treasure master Terdog Lingpa also explains dal as the essence of resting. We are free from being separated from resting in the essence of mind. Separation occurs in the mind when the conceptual thoughts that arise separate us from our ground of intrinsic awareness. We then succumb to appearances, which leads to fabrication and the creation of samsara. The 8 freedoms allow us to remain in a state of non-separation from the ground of awareness. Because we are constantly exposed to various distractions, this is difficult to do. To remain in a completely uncontrived state is the actual meaning of shamatha meditation, or calm abiding. So the endowments embody freedom, the fundamental essence of mind, and the 10 endowments and 8 freedoms make up the 18 qualities, because of which a human life is said to be precious. The reason for contemplating these 18 qualities is to recognize our own goodness and potential. This can bring happiness to ourselves and others. Contemplation. Having understood your core essence of enlightenment, you can rely on the process of analysis if you then revert back to habitual tendencies. Ask yourself, how do these emotions arise? What is their nature? Are they useful or not? Can they be proven? Study the teachings and apply them in meditation so that understanding and appreciation come about. We cannot understand and cultivate our human qualities properly by comparing ourselves or competing with others. Instead, we must look at exactly how to put these qualities into practice. This is like having an abundance of good food and wanting to cook something to eat. Let's say we have 18 main ingredients laid out on the table in front of us. We could prostrate to our ingredients and recite their names faithfully. We could hang up their pictures and make daily supplications to them, and we would die of hunger. It's the same with Dharma. No matter how loyal and devoted we are, no matter how much we supplicate and say, "I love you," until we truly put it into practice, the Dharma won't ripen within us. The point is to bring the 18 qualities to fruition. The 8 freedoms. The 8 freedoms are counted among the 18 qualities because they strengthen our fundamental pure nature and are necessary to bring the teachings on absolute truth to fruition. The first 3 freedoms refer to freedom from birth in the 3 lower realms, the hell, hungry ghost, and animal realms. We will talk about the 6 realms individually in part 3. The extreme conditions and suffering of the lower realms prevent us from becoming aware of our intrinsic nature and potential to benefit ourselves and others. Because our awareness is so completely on the immediate experience of suffering, the lower realms are improbable conditions in which to generate enlightened mind. The 4th freedom is freedom from birth in a barbarous place. This is sometimes mistakenly thought of as a tribal place, but it actually refers to a country without any understanding of the 10 virtuous and unvirtuous actions. In a barbaric place, there is no understanding of genuine selflessness and the need to refrain from selfish activities. There is no understanding of the need for compassion and no awareness of the human responsibility to do the right thing. We are solely preoccupied with our own survival, feeding ourselves, our self-identity, and so on. And we're not even faintly aware of the happiness of others. Harming others seems acceptable. There are no favorable conditions for generating awareness or bodhicitta, and therefore we're completely unaware of the need to break free from such patterns. This condition is referred to as a barbarous place. It doesn't mean that beings in these realms have an inferior nature. It simply refers to the difficulty of remaining in an uncontrived state when surrounded by extremely distracting circumstances. Freedom from birth in such a place is also something that you and I have attained. The 5th freedom is not being born in the God, Deva realm, which is the fruition of virtuous actions and merit that are contaminated with selfishness. This is a pleasurable life, free from immediate pain and suffering, but still not free from cyclic existence. The intense pleasures of the God realm bring no awareness of the importance of letting go of ignorance or unvirtuous activities. In certain God realms, we simply have a sense of, oh, I've been born in the Deva realm. Such a life is like a long, comfortable sleep. The end result, however, is the exhaustion of the good karma that brought us there. When we have exhausted our good karma, negative karmas catch up with us, and we are born into one of the other realms. For this reason, birth in the God realm is said to be even worse than birth in the three lower realms. With all their pain and suffering, the lower realms actually exhaust our negative karma. In the God realm, it is temporarily suppressed, which only makes it last longer. Meanwhile, all the good karma we've accumulated is being completely exhausted. And even without the suffering of the lower realms, we are still unable to practice or realize our intrinsic nature. Intense preoccupation with desire and attachment is so thick that just as with extreme suffering, we never meet with the circumstances leading to awareness. Because we are unable to generate enlightened mind, birth in the God realm is as unfavorable as birth in the lower realms. Since you have not been born in these realms, you are free from these conditions. The sixth freedom is freedom from wrong view. We may indeed be born in a place where we meet with the Dharma and be aware of the fundamental goodness of human nature, yet we don't cultivate these valuable qualities. We have no faith in cause and effect, and no genuine devotion to the qualities of the three jewels. This is wrong view, which is more intense than simply lacking awareness. With wrong view, we actually cause harm to ourselves and others. This occurs because we just don't see the whole meaning and point of generating goodness, compassion, or selflessness, and so we continue to base our actions in selfishness and unkindness. We need to understand that we do know right from wrong. This is a mind that is sane, a mind that knows that good actions bring happiness and negative actions create suffering. Nevertheless, we choose to continue negative activities, ignoring cause and effect and the harm we inflict. Now, it's important not to misunderstand wrong view or to be too tough on yourself. None of us has complete confidence in cause and effect at this point, and it's quite fair to say we all have wrong view to some extent. You needn't lose sleep at night thinking, I'm the anti-Buddhist, the one with no confidence in cause and effect. Please don't be too hard on yourself. Freedom from wrong view means that we understand the importance of generating awareness and abandoning unvirtuous activities. As long as we recognize the harmfulness and negativity of anger, desire, ignorance, jealousy, and hatred, and the need to abandon these, we do not hold a wrong view. We will talk more about freedom from wrong view as a fruition of refuge in Part 5. The seventh freedom is not being born in a place without the presence of a Buddha. This could be a place where the Buddhas have not come to teach. If we never met the Dharma, having a human birth with all its endowments wouldn't matter. We wouldn't have any opportunity to learn, practice, or find the path to liberation. Or we might be born in a time and place with a Buddha. We might even live next door to a Buddhist center. But because of our karmic conditions, we have no idea that a being called Buddha or the path of meditation exists in this world. For us, it is as if the Buddha had never come and taught. Contemplate the fact that you're not suffering from this obstruction. You've been born in a time when the Buddha has come, in a place where the Buddha has taught. The eighth freedom is not being born deaf and dumb. This needs to be understood properly. The Tibetan term kugpa, is translated as deaf and mute. A person who is deaf and mute from birth has never had the opportunity to hear the Dharma. Without this opportunity, it's very difficult for such a person to put effort into the path of practice. Due to good karma, however, he or she may have a natural ability to generate kindness, compassion, and actions that show basic goodness. We may know such a person, and in his or her basic nature, we may find goodness and the ability to know right from wrong. Such a precious human existence is qualified to attain absolute realization within one lifetime. So this is by no means a criticism of anyone. It's a way of acknowledging how easy it is for us. We are actually talking about those who have no understanding of what to accept and reject, no ability to abandon negative tendencies and cultivate the good. Whatever the circumstantial reasons, such people will have difficulty generating enlightened mind for the simple reason that they cannot distinguish between good and bad actions. If you understand the difference between good and bad, and we know what to abandon and cultivate, even if we are impaired or disabled, you are not in this category. Awareness of the conditions that we are not suffering from should bring an understanding of all the fortunate circumstances we do have. The reason for contemplating the 18 qualities is to recognize our own goodness and potential, which can bring happiness to ourselves and others. So if you see a fault in yourself, the wisest thing to do is to change it. If you see that you lack confidence in karma, try harder to understand cause and effect. Don't mope about or criticize yourself for not having enough confidence. From today onward, bring more awareness to cause and effect and get to work on it. That's a more positive way of looking at things. What's being asked of us is not that we become good Buddhists, but that we develop a genuine awareness of exactly what we're doing with our lives. There is no greater example of ignorance than a meditator who, having contemplated the rarity of all these endowments, still does not understand the value of this life and continues to waste it. Waiting for enlightenment will not bring about enlightenment. The conditions leading to enlightenment must be acted upon. If we know this to be so, and yet the tendency to wait and wait continues in meditation, there's a very big gap between aspiration and practice. The intention of anyone on the path of practice is to cross over from ignorance to pristine wisdom. This will happen only when our body, speech, and mind are completely grounded in letting go. We must be willing to let go of laziness, aggression, ignorance, desire, attachment, and grasping, jealousy, and hatred. Reflecting on all the positive conditions with which we're endowed will make it possible to let go of these habitual tendencies. The 8 freedoms alone provide enough inspiration, guidance, and path to bring the aspiration for selfless compassion to fruition, don't they? At this point, other than our own unwillingness to let go of self-grasping, we're completely endowed with favorable inner and outer conditions. Recognizing the rarity of these qualities, we are free from ignorance, the cause of suffering. As practitioners on the path of meditation, it is essential for us to remain in this understanding of the preciousness of human existence. To support that, contemplate the 8 freedoms. Contemplation. Go through the 8 freedoms one by one. Reflect on the various distractions and kinds of pain they describe, and how very few and small your own problems are by comparison. See that your problems, which you often create yourself, have solutions. In this way, reflect on the 8 freedoms with a true sense of what a great opportunity you have in the preciousness of this moment and this existence. The first self-endowment. The 10 endowments. The 10 endowments are divided into 5 self-endowments and 5 circumstantial endowments. Together with the 8 freedoms, they constitute the 18 qualities of a precious human existence. The 8 freedoms and 5 self-endowments are similar in that each of them discusses the negative conditions leading to non-freedom and the opposite qualities giving rise to freedom. Look to see if these qualities are present within you, and if they are, know how truly fortunate your circumstances are. The 5 self-endowments. The first self-endowment is having a human body and a mind that is capable of generating compassion and wisdom. Although a human birth is still within the realms of samsara, it is a valuable vessel. Without this human body, it wouldn't be possible to be a container for absolute truth. This body and mind are able to realize the essence of enlightenment and to take that essence into action for the benefit of all sentient beings. It is important to appreciate the preciousness of this existence. The second self-endowment is that our human body has been born in a central land. This is a land where the Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and teachers have taught where Dharma continues to be taught and practiced, and where the wheel of Dharma continues to be turned. Traditionally, a central land refers to Bodh Gaya, the actual place where the Buddha attained enlightenment and first taught. In the Buddhist teachings, however, we need to be aware of all the different meanings of each word. The word Bodh Gaya, for example, comes from the Sanskrit word bodhi, which literally means awakening. Another name for Bodh Gaya is Vajrasana, which can mean the land of Vajra, or Vajra mind, which is none other than Buddha mind. So being born in a central land could mean a situation or place where we are presented with the view of Vajra mind, a place where we can recognize our inherent Buddha nature and take it to complete realization. We have been born in such a place. The third self-endowment is that we're born with our 6 senses intact. Our eyes can see, our ears can hear, and so forth, and our mind consciousness has the ability to discern right from wrong. Therefore, we are able to know what to abandon and what to cultivate. This is the wisdom of discernment. Having all of our senses intact, we can remain in the ground of awareness with all of our perceptions, which is a precious quality. The fourth self-endowment is that we're born with the right view. We are not holding the wrong view described earlier. Right view also refers to livelihood. A livelihood that is congruent with the view does not create the ground for any negative karma. Any occupation, job, or responsibility that leads to the creation of negative karma is in complete contradiction to the aspiration of selflessness, generosity, Buddha mind, and benefiting sentient beings. Our livelihood should be based on the ground of accumulating positive cause and effect, and its activities should lead to the achievement of our aspirations. Right activity cannot arise from a foundation of wrong livelihood. The term livelihood also has a wide range of interpretations. It's not only our job, it is any responsibility we take on that leads to some action or result. Our responsibility could lead to a negative action, such as a power struggle, jealousy, disparaging comments, or criticism. It might create turmoil in the minds of practitioners. It could manifest as difficulties with one who is in a position of authority, or difficulties among teachers or meditation instructors. Our intentions might be expressed with hardness, in words that cut or injure the mind of another, which is like actually killing that person. A physical killing could have less impact than killing someone's mind and destroying their ground of goodness. It is extremely important to realize how quickly we can create circumstances that can pull other people from their path or disrupt their progress in understanding the Dharma. A livelihood that does not inflict harm intentionally or unintentionally on sentient beings is congruent with the view of absolute truth. The fifth self-endowment is the quality of devotion or irreversible confidence. With devotion, we have confidence in our basic true nature and path of practice. We are confident that we can walk on the path and generate selfless compassion for sentient beings. Terdog Lingpa emphasizes that irreversible confidence should be understood as a willingness to be tamed, to go through transformation, and to transcend. This willingness brings the confidence to understand the value of the view, at which point taming, transformation, and transcendence can take place. We could say that taming is related to the Hinayana path of practice, transformation is related to the Mahayana path, and transcendence is related to the Vajrayana path. All three lead to training the mind. Understanding the value of view means recognizing how grasping leads to the notion of a self, and one, and seeing how stubbornly we hold on to the belief in a self and how silly this stubbornness is. Self-grasping is based on fear and the need to preserve and protect our identity. Taming, transformation, and transcendence are connected with letting go of the stubbornness. Reflecting on ignorance and its cause, we can tame, transform, and transcend ignorance, which leads to the dissolution of rigid, self-grasping mind. The fundamental ground can then arise unimpeded. These are the 5 self-endowments. Upon reflection, we can see they are inherent in us. The only obstacle to their full manifestation is hesitation arising from ignorance. Ignorance can manifest as unawareness, as inner distractions such as depression or disappointment, or as the outer distractions of the senses. Recognizing the preciousness of our endowments, we should exert effort so they reach their full potential. The 5 circumstantial endowments. The 5 circumstantial endowments are 5 circumstances that permit us to fully utilize all 8 freedoms and 5 self-endowments. The first circumstantial endowment is that the Buddha has come into this world. Throughout the ages, or kalpas, there are various ages in which no Buddhas are born, or they are born but do not attain enlightenment or do not teach. These are known as dark ages, dark kalpas. When we speak of the history of civilization and the ages of the world, we speak in terms of kalpas. A kalpa lasts for thousands of years and is made up of 4 stages. First, it originates and establishes its existence. Second, this existence actually continues. Then comes a gradual disintegration or destruction of that kalpa. Finally, there is the complete extinction or exhaustion of the kalpa. These are the 4 phases that a world system and our own experience goes through. Within a kalpa, countless Buddhas or no Buddhas may arise, depending on our karmic creations. The same mind that creates the karmic causes and conditions of the 6 realms has the absolute ability to create kalpas with and without Buddhas. If we meet someone on the road who has never heard of the Buddha, for that person this is a dark age. He or she was born in a kalpa with no Buddha, no teachings of Buddha, and no understanding of the wheel of Dharma. There are also kalpas in which Buddhas manifest but don't teach. This is also in accord with the conditions of the time. Our circumstances are different. We are endowed with the Buddha and his teachings. Shakyamuni Buddha, who lived 2,500 years ago, turned the wheel of Dharma not just once, but several times within our time period. Although he passed into nirvana, the teachings are maintained through an unbroken lineage of Sangha. In the words of my perfect teacher, Khandro Rinpoche explains the formation and meaning of kalpas and the constant arising of world systems. Out of ignorance, we tend to relate only to our personal experience, what my eyes see, ears hear, nose smells, mouth tastes, body feels, and mind thinks. These sense perceptions confirm our ego. We tend to think that everything revolves around our sense perceptions and understanding, and anything beyond them cannot exist, which is a fairly arrogant way of looking at things. So world systems must be appreciated in their entirety. A simple way to begin is to see the difference between my view of the world and yours. My perceptions and yours are different. The world may look like one big ball, one system that we call the cosmos. But even in that oneness, there are different perceptions. There may be the same quality of space, but the perceptions within that space differ. This is because of the way karma is created. Every cause has different results. 3 individuals will plant 3 different seeds with 3 different results. Likewise, a variety of causes with a common ground will generally have a similar fruition. For example, every form of anger creates some kind of pain. But 3 individuals may have different intentions, different reasons to be angry. Different causes and conditions create different interpretations of anger, resulting in a more or less intense fruition. The difference in fruition is due to differences in our perceptual abilities to create and interpret those creations. For this reason, there can be sentient beings in this world system who never hear a word of the Buddha's teachings. Such people are born into the same outer circumstances and world system as you are, but in a place and time with no Buddha. To think that everyone is in the same big bubble, to think that my experience is the same for all sentient beings, is not logical. Of all the billions of sentient beings, how many are actually born in a world system where they experience the Buddha? In this same world system, how many Buddhas, due to circumstances of karma, do not teach? We could find ourselves in a world where the Buddha didn't teach, or where the Buddha and his teachings never arrived at all. We could simply never meet with the teachings, or we could meet with them and not connect. A Buddha is a genuinely enlightened being who manifests to benefit sentient beings. In this world system, it is said that 1,022 Buddhas will be born. Not all Buddhas will arise in the same form, dress in the same uniform, teach or sit in the same way, or speak the same language. To expect that they would is to solidify the notion of what an enlightened Buddha is. Buddhas arise in the forms that will best benefit sentient beings. Some, like Shakyamuni Buddha, are born to perform innumerable activities. Many manifest through compassion, but we never encounter or recognize them as Buddhas. There are Buddhas who never go through the process of turning the wheel or teaching the Dharma. We have been born in a time when a Buddha was born, attained enlightenment, and taught the Dharma, which brings us to the second circumstantial endowment. The second circumstantial endowment is the Buddha's teachings. If the Buddha had never taught, we'd never be able to meet with or understand the Dharma. We are fortunate not to be in such a situation. We have the opportunity to connect with the teachings and instructions that develop the ground of enlightenment. We are endowed with what is known as Dharma resting without degeneration. The Dharma still exists and is still being practiced. The purity of the view remains. The third circumstantial endowment is the good fortune to have been born at a time when the Dharma, with all the goodness and genuineness of the teachings, is still being taught. If we were to be born in a time much later than this, when all the Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and great masters had already come and gone, we would live in a degenerate age. In a degenerate age, the strength and power of a world system and the preciousness of its qualities begin to decline. The Dharma becomes weaker and may not be properly practiced. The teachings may be misinterpreted or misunderstood, and misguidance may be given. Our circumstances, again, are different. A degenerate age occurs when emphasis is placed on the interpretation of the view rather than the true view itself. It occurs when we misuse or misunderstand the view, taking only what makes sense to us or can be practiced by an ignorant mind. Ignorance contaminates the view by measuring and weighing and allowing hesitation, stubbornness, and ego-grasping to occur. We contaminate the view to make it sound good, feel good, or suit selfish ends. Interpreting the view to suit our own needs and demands, we then present it to others in the same degenerate way. This is known as the full manifestation of the degenerate age. It is rare to be born in circumstances where this hasn't happened, where with right effort we can still meet with the pure Dharma whose meaning has not been interpreted. This is the essential third circumstantial endowment. Recognizing how rare this is, we should exert effort. Do not misuse this opportunity or let it go by. The fourth circumstantial endowment is that there are living examples of the Dharma and the practices. The view has been completely preserved, and we are able to encounter the pure view and connect with a Sangha that practices it completely. In the absence of the Buddha, to have living examples with whom we can connect is a rare endowment. In degenerate times, there may be Dharma in theory, but living examples are rare. We're nearing a time when our living examples are becoming fewer in number, and there may be some sense of hurrying before we run out of this endowment. But at this point, we are still endowed with living masters, living examples, on the path of practice. The fifth circumstantial endowment, which is the most important of all, is the genuine kindness in the heart of the teacher. Anyone who teaches the Dharma must have compassion for others. Otherwise, no matter how much effort a teacher exerts, it's likely that the Dharma will be misinterpreted and that students will not be directed to the correct view. So it is essential to be born in a time when teachers have selfless compassion in their hearts. It is said that compassion in the hearts of the students signifies compassion in the hearts of those responsible for teaching the Dharma. Gathering and maintaining favorable circumstances plants the seed of Dharma in the minds of practitioners. Any teacher of Dharma must also have developed awareness and be able to be completely selfless at all times. It is said that the exact time when the Dharma will fall apart, when the genuine pure Dharma will no longer be taught, will come when Dharma teachers no longer have genuine compassion towards sentient beings. When fabricated compassion or lack of compassion is reflected in the mind or conduct of a teacher, and a teacher's priority is self-gain, then the degenerate age is manifest in all its glory. In our time, we are fortunate to have met teachers with genuine compassion who do not teach for personal gain. This is our circumstantial endowment. Together with our primordially pure nature, these are the inherent circumstances that bring our mind and body to perfect liberation. To realize how difficult it is to obtain them, let's look at it from the perspective of an ant in the road. There's the same desire for happiness, the same desire to be free from suffering. But if we were to try to express even the tiniest speck of our understanding to that animal, we would not succeed. Likewise, how many human beings do you know with whom you can actually share or explain what you know? Circumstantial difficulties do not let people go beyond whatever existence and experiences they're stuck with. Compared with these circumstances, all the little difficulties that impede your path of practice laziness, having too much to do, and so on, are very tiny and very weak indeed. Contemplation. Reflect on each of the 10 endowments and see whether you are so endowed. At this point, you should be able to realize that all these circumstances have come together within you and that you truly hold a precious human existence. Contemplating the preciousness of this moment and all of your endowments, generate strong courage within yourself. Generate the courage to establish a ground of meditation strong enough and brave enough to work with all your habitual tendencies, which are just empty thoughts. A human birth so difficult to obtain. Ashu male fe1s, all the more precious for being so difficult to obtain. The most direct way to look at this is to compare the vast numbers of beings in this very world system. A Tibetan term for sentient beings is droa, groba, which means movement. Any movement anywhere signifies the presence of a mind or mental consciousness and a holder of that mind. The bodies and minds of living beings create the immense amount of movement in all the realms. Compare the numbers. There are millions and millions of life forms on, above, and below the earth and in the ocean. We think that our human population is huge when actually it is very small compared to the vast numbers of beings in other forms. Just between the human and animal realms, the least populated of the lower realms, there is a vast difference in numbers. Tradition ally, it's said that the number of beings in the animal realm is equivalent to all the dust particles on the surface of the earth, while human beings equal the number of dust particles on the tip of a needle. Our teachers would tell anyone arrogant enough to boast of the numbers of human beings to dig a pit about 4 by 4 feet and look into it carefully. The billions of sentient beings in just that one pit would equal the whole human population. From that point of view, we must really have a sense of the existence of life forms everywhere, and an appreciation of the vastness of karma and the preciousness of a human existence. There are innumerable beings with no such potential, and of those endowed human beings, how many recognize the cyclic existence of sentient beings and are willing to create the ground of happiness rather than the ground of suffering? How many recognize ignorance and all that arises from it? How many have the opportunities that you and I have to meet with the Dharma and truly put it into practice? And of those human beings, how many actually generate motivation and bring their potential to fruition? Human beings who can truly let go of unvirtuous actions are rare, and rarer still are those who actually put virtuous actions into practice. Since we have this rare potential and opportunity, no matter how weak we are or how many difficulties and habitual tendencies we may have, we have far better circumstances than millions and billions of sentient beings moving about at this particular time. We must realize how close we actually are to bringing these endowments to fruition, but we're not doing so. A single invisible thought, hesitation, or doubt can cause us to slip, disrupting everything. Not to put our potential to use would be a complete waste of a life. There is no greater waste or deception toward others than to have the ability to generate selflessness, but allow distraction to completely destroy you. The understanding that should arise from this is do not waste a moment of this life. Do not, through one moment of non-awareness or one emotional obstacle, waste the potential of your higher birth. Contemplation. From the moment of your birth until now, With all these conditions that so many millions of sentient beings do not have, what have you actually squeezed out as the essence of so many years of life? If you were to die at this moment, what would be the fruition of having had this healthy body and mind and all this potential? What would be left behind, if not for others' benefit, then for your own? Endowed with all these qualities, have you ended up just learning and talking about them as you go about doing the millions of other things you do? Or have you actually planted and nurtured them in your life so they blossom? If this hasn't happened, contemplate the immense waste of mind still unwilling to put this into practice and come to fruition. Bring awareness to the preciousness of each moment so it can truly arise as the ground of enlightenment. This is the essential meaning of the first reminder, which reminds us why we need to exert effort to generate awareness at all times. A higher birth means freedom from samsara, a birth that allows liberation to arise. The cause of such a favorable birth, according to the Madhyamaka, middle way, school of Buddhist teachings, is based on ethics or discipline. In this case, discipline means binding all of our human qualities together with awareness. The binding factor of awareness will bring them to fruition. It will allow us to abandon anything useless or destructive to our human qualities and to cultivate that which will bring them to fruition. Awareness is known as the foundation of liberation, upon which we can bring the 18 qualities to fruition. What are the benefits of bringing a precious human existence to fruition? Only a human being can create the favorable ground of karma leading to birth in the higher realms. As a result, this present life could lead to more favorable circumstances in the next, or at the very least, a better tomorrow or a better old age. Favorable circumstances can arise only from the ground of positive karma. Fruition depends on a cause. The causes of favorable circumstances are virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind, and a positive cause cannot be created without awareness. Awareness is the actual discipline that puts positive karma into practice. We can also talk about lesser and greater fruition. Lesser fruition is the attainment of our own liberation. Individual liberation, or arhatship, is attained through Hinayana practices by arhats, known as solitary realizers. But even this liberation cannot be attained without bringing all 18 qualities to fruition through the practice of Dharma. The greater fruition is that of a bodhisattva, a fully enlightened, compassionate being who benefits all sentient beings. We cannot attain the fruition of a bodhisattva without the cause of a human birth. So no matter what we aspire to, from temporary happiness in this life to the attainment of absolute liberation, the fundamental requirement is a precious human birth endowed with the 18 qualities. Having attained this precious human existence, like a ship that crosses the ocean of samsara, without falling into distractions or laziness of mind through ignorance, allow yourself to awaken to the preciousness of this moment. It is not in planning for liberation that liberation arises. Liberation arises from the wakefulness of each moment. This very moment is completely endowed with all the favorable circumstances we need for enlightenment. If and when awareness is not generated, it's only because we're unaware of these fundamental qualities, which therefore are not fully utilized. The importance of strengthening awareness is understood from contemplating impermanence, the second thought that transforms the mind.